What's up, everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Mardek, and of course last time we took out the red dragon. Now, I may have had some issues with trying to learn a specific ability from said dragon, but let's put that aside for now because, theoretically speaking, we may still be able to pick that up on Legion from a different opponent. So, one other thing that we did pick up, though, from that dragon, as we were noting before, were the red dragon scales, and these are supposedly a strong crafting ingredient, and so now is probably a good time for us to check back in with the blacksmith, see if he can do anything with these red dragon scales. The other thing is, we postponed some other gear upgrades in the past, and now is probably a good time for us to make a point of doing some of that, because, well, after having cleared Water Temple, Fire Temple, Earth Temple now, and learning that we, at least at the moment, cannot get into the Air Temple, that means that we're getting pretty far along at this point, and so time is of the essence. If we are thinking that at some point we will want to get some new gear, then we want to do that pretty much as soon as possible so that we have enough time to master those abilities. So, let's head on over to the blacksmith and see what they have. Are those red dragon scales that you have there? Astounding! I would very much like to fashion a weapon for you out of those. I've always wanted to work with them, you see. It is a blacksmith's dream. Okay. So, other thing I should note, technically speaking, the red dragon is an optional boss. We did not need to fight it, but of course we just did, and so we'll get to see what exactly we can get in terms of rewards out of that. Because I don't think there was too much from the chest itself that it was guarding. But the big thing, as we'll soon see, is that, of course, we got those red dragon scales. So, I mean, we could say that we don't want to give him the dragon scales, but no, we should do it, right? Excellent. I shall work very quickly. Very quickly indeed. Here you go. Okay, well done, yes. In fact, we never saw you move from this spot, so lightning fast indeed. This is the Dracal Crescent, a weapon traditionally wielded by only the strongest of chieftains of this village. It is a truly mighty weapon. Use it well. Okay. So, with that being said, with it being an optional boss fight, what we have here is the Dracal Crescent. So, an item that you, of course, would not be able to pick up unless you made a point of taking out the red dragon. It is a great axe, meaning that it will, of course, be an item for Slinic. It's a powerful axe, forged from red dragon scales, traditionally used by the most powerful of Reptoid chieftains. I suppose with that description, probably could have assumed this was going to be a Slinic item. But it has 60 base attack damage, and that is, if I'm not mistaken, the highest in the game for any weapon, regardless of which character. The asterisk there being Meridor, because technically speaking, his weapons don't have an attack rating, but that's beside the point. This is really freaking good, is the point. It is an item that gives us Fire Stream, which is a new active skill for Slinic, and Quarry Dragon. Okay, don't know how often Slinic is going to be fighting dragons, but I suppose when they are, this is a good way to deal extra damage to them. Also, Soul Strike. We've, of course, seen that on many people, although I don't know that Slinic has yet picked up an item that gives him access to it, so there's that as well. Also, gives 10% crit chance, which is tied for the highest we've seen thus far. That's along the same lines as things like the Arapolitan Scimitar. Fire Elemental, so base attacks will be Fire Elemental unless we override that with some other type of elemental-based skill. Plus 3 strength, it's not bad, and 3 vitality as well. And it empowers fire, but as we know, that's not going to do much of anything, of course. But all in all, this is the strongest item for Slinic, and arguably the strongest weapon in the game. So, for that reason, we are definitely going to want to make a point of putting that on Slinic. However, Slinic, I think at this point, has many axes that they've not yet used, so Slinic, you're going to have a bit of a backlog here. But while we're here, right next to the blacksmith, what I'm saying is, I think we want to make a point of checking out other stuff that we could perhaps be able to make. And so I loaded up on all of our crafting items on Mardek here, because we were talking about things like, well, gold ore, we're going to only be able to get a certain amount of them, same with silver ore, same with some other things like Cantriathopes, and I believe even the purple conches and golden conches. So now that we have them all here, we can more easily say, okay, How many are we willing to use to make certain items? Let's just go one by one here. The Blood Sword, we actually have gotten some of these because they can drop from some of the enemies in Saul's dungeon, so we're good there. Sting Stick, we've made several of these. These are oftentimes going to be the first items that you can create from Blacksmith, so I think we're good there. Silver Axe. There are some axolotls that wield this. I don't recall whether they can drop them. I assume they probably can, but I don't know if we got any of them. And the reason why I hesitate here is because, well, like I was just saying, we have a bit of backlog in terms of Slinik's axes. In fact, quite a backlog. I think Slinik might have, at this point, at least 3 axes they've not yet used, if not more. But note that it uses a silver ore here. Like we were saying, silver is a limited resource. There's only so much of it you can get. And so with only 4 at the moment, we want to be very selective of when and where we do use it. So for that reason, I think let's hold off on this silver axe for the time being. Maybe if we find that we have a surplus of silver, which I kind of doubt, but if we find that we don't have other things that we want to use the silver on, then we might go back to this. Similar story, I think, with the eagle wings, because this has phoenix pinions. Those are difficult to get, they're valuable, but the big thing is it does also cost a gold ore. So the eagle wings, this is the only place you can get them. It is a double sword for Zack with 40 base attack power. It is pretty strong. As you can see, that is on the same level as Mardek's Forest Edge, the sword that we got from the Earth Temple not long ago. So it's good, and it does give Soul Strike, which of course Zack has already mastered, so for that reason that's not super meaningful. And plus 2 agility, we can also get that. So none of these things are really be-all, end-all, although this item itself, this is the only place you can get it. The 40 attack is good, might currently be the best double sword we could get on Zack. And the crit chance, 7% is also not bad. Air Elemental would have been useful in the Earth Temple not long ago. But I think that because we can get all these skills from other items, this is not something that I think we ought to be spending gold or a limited resource on. There are going to be other things that are better than this, so let's hold off on that. Next, let's move to the Steel Stole, and this one's interesting. So, it gives 10 defense, which is a ton, and it is a stole, which is notable because that means that anyone, including even Solar, can equip this. It's a stole made of a sort of metal so thin and flexible, it's almost like cloth, only several hundred times stronger and more protective. It increases defense a lot, yeah, 10 defense, that is a ton, and also protects against non-elemental attacks. That's the other big thing. So 10 defense, that in and of itself is a lot, yes, but we have other things that are at least kind of close to that. It does give minus 20% and soak 30 for defensive reactions. I think this is the only item that gives soak 30, or at least certainly the only one that we've seen thus far, because as you can see here, Mardek has not yet learned it, and Mardek has learned basically everything that we have access to at this point. So that's not an amazing ability, soak 30, as we've seen. The percentages are definitely going to be more effective at this stage in the game, but still. And like we were saying before, with this being an item that even Solar can equip, Solar has difficulty picking up lots of the items that give us other defensive reactions. You know, you can't put on any of a number of things that we were using in Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and now, of course, Chapter 3 as well, that we are kind of taking for granted. Things that give us minus 10%, minus 20%, minus 30% physical defensive reactions. So I don't recall whether Solar has a way of getting minus 20%. This might be the only way to make that happen as well. So in many ways for Solar, this is a fantastic item to at least get that going. The other thing is, it gives resist physical 50%, which sounds great because physical means that non-elemental, basically the type of element that we would typically have back in Chapter 2 and Chapter 1, when people didn't have things like Soul Strike or fire skills or water skills all the time. So it's become a lot less common in Chapter 3 for attacks to actually be physical elemental, but it does happen, and it's very difficult to build up resistance to it, because this is, if I'm not mistaken, one of, if not the only way to actually get a percentage resistance for physical elemental. So in my first playthrough, I went absolutely crazy, creating a bunch of these steel stoles, but that was, well, perhaps when I didn't realize that silver ore was that much of a limited resource. So I think that at least picking up one of these is very tempting, but going all out on them, maybe not the best idea here. I think any of these items that use limited resources like silver, Candrathopes, and gold ore, we're only ever going to want to make one of them because we can learn the skills with them in that case, and sure, it means we won't be able to have two people using them simultaneously, but because there are other things that we're also going to want to use for those limited resources, you're not going to want to spend a bunch of them on any one specific type of thing because we're going to miss out on the other stuff. So this is tempting. I think we probably are going to want to use this, but let's hold out for the time being. Let's just see what else we have in terms of things that are going to cost silver ore, because as we can see, only 4 of that. It's pretty darn limited. The other thing to bear in mind here is that we do see all the items that we can craft from this blacksmith, but remember, back in Gosnor, Meridor can actually create items for both Legion and Meridor himself, and that is significant because although Meridor at least can wear much of the robes and miscellaneous items that other spellcasters can equip, Legion is in a similar boat to Solar in that there are only a very specific subset of items that Legion can equip in the chestplate spot and also on the weapon spot. I suppose the weapon spot is similar across the board for everyone, but that means that if there are things that cost gold and silver to create for Legion and Meridor, which I'm almost certain that is the case, then we might want to hold out a little bit just so we can pick up some of those things as well. So that's another reason to not go totally crazy on spending silver or gold here. The Regal Crown, we did get one of these to drop back from King Cuthbert much earlier in Chapter 3, so I think for that reason, we probably don't feel the need to create it. It also costs a gold ore and a Candrathope, both of which are limited, so for that reason, I think we definitely rule that out. We've created many Skull Helms. These ones do not require limited resources, and they're actually quite good. So for that reason, we've made a bunch, and I'm not sure we need more per se, but let's carry on. Mardek's Golden M Helm. It's a full helm with 6 defense and 3 magic defense on a helmet. That is roughly equivalent to what we have on many chest plates, so that's pretty amazing. It's a golden helm fashioned specifically for Mardek. The M-shaped visor looks sort of silly, but Mardek insists on it because he doesn't take life too seriously anyway, and thinks it's rather fitting. On his head... Get it? Never mind. So it gives the plus 20% magic damage reaction, which Mardek has already learned, and Bright Eyes, which Mardek has also already learned. So that's an interesting thing to consider, is that at least in terms of skills, it's nothing new. It's only usable by Mardek. It does give +1 to all attributes, and like we said, has that really high defense and magic defense. Resistance to light is also... Resistance is in general very tough to get on the helmet spot. We have the Black Hat, which gives 50% dark resistance. Other than that, that's just about it. The Empowers Light, of course, doesn't really do anything. But basically, by picking up the Golden M Helm, what that does is it allows us to load up on some light resistance in an area that we would not otherwise be able to get any light resistance at all. And, say, frees up the Dark Hat to use on someone else, so that other people can also use resistance helmets. So this one is really tempting. Of course, you never would have any need to get more than one of them. Like we were saying, we probably weren't going to want to do that anyway, but in case you're thinking, well, it's amazing, let's just make a bunch. Remember, only usable by Mardek, so you definitely do not want more than one of these, but it does cost gold ore, light essence, and a Candrathope. And golden cost, I think actually all those things are limited, so maybe not light essence, but that might actually be one of the few things that we don't have at the moment. Pretty sure we could go over to Aeropolis, and one of the shopkeepers might be selling some, but, that one, I mean, we don't have the light essence now, so at the very least, right now, we would not be able to do it. But this one does intrigue me a lot, because many of those limited resources, yes, but at least in terms of raw stats, this is one of, if not the best helmets in the game, for my money. Next, we get to the Astral Wanderer's Garb. 6 defense, 6 magic defense. It's Ether Elemental. Let's actually go back to this spot first. It's light armor, so that means that many people can equip it. Outside of Legion and Solar, I think will be the only ones who can. So our spellcasters can, notably, along with, of course, our more heavy armored people, too. Light armor worn by those who walk in the realm of spirits. It protects against the Ether elements. So it gives resist Ether, which we did, of course, find on, I believe it was, yes, the turquoise here. So that is a way for just about anyone to learn it, including those who would not be able to equip the Astral Wanderer's Garb. However, it also gives 20% resist Ether on the chest plate, and +2 spirit, so it's an interesting one. I think this is something where if we look at the components here, cost ectoplasm, ether essence, a phage crystal, and human skulls, this is one that if we were looking a little bit more at the blacksmith earlier, we might have thought that this was a good early pickup, and I think to a certain extent it still is. Because all these things here, the ether essence, that might be limited, or at least is rather hard to pick up. As you can see here, we have 3 of it in our inventory right now, and of course we've been playing for a while now in Chapter 3 and Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 as well. So, phage crystals, those are super common. Human skulls, super common. Ectoplasm, super common as well. Those are all things that drop from fairly common enemies, basically all the spirits and ghosts that we've been fighting in the past. So I think at the very least it's worth making one of these, because there's nothing here in terms of ingredients that stands out to me as something that we absolutely do not want to use right now. So let's throw this stuff in. Ectoplasm, the essence, like I said, that's technically the thing that is most limited, but I think that, again, there are probably still at least a few vendors in Neuropolis who are probably selling a little bit more of this. We might have purchased some of it from them, but then we take the phage crystals, those are also super common, and human skulls, we have a bazillion of those. So there we have it. So, in terms of the skill, we have several people, like Mardek here, who have already mastered resist ether, but to throw on 20% ether resistance on top of that and still be able to throw on the turquoise in the accessory slot means that this is, theoretically at least, the best way of maximizing ether resistance. Let's just throw it in someone else's inventory, because Mardek is pretty darn full at the moment. So this one, you could almost make the case that making multiple of them is okay, because, again, the ether essence is pretty much the only thing that's holding you back. And if we look here, we have a mithril plate mail, which gives 15 defense and 5 magic defense. It's heavy armor, understandably, forged from the extremely rare metal called mithril. It's lightweight and incredibly durable. I mean, you say it's lightweight, but at the same time, it's called a heavy armor, and you say heavy armor in the description, so getting some mixed singles here. It is definitely, at least officially, heavy armor, though. Also gives the minus 30% defensive reaction. We have one chestplate at the moment that also gives that, but this, I believe, is better, and also gives that damage soak 30 that we saw previously on the Steel Stole. In the Steel Stole, we were a little bit on the fence as to whether or not we wanted to make these. So, to pick that up elsewhere, from this item here, is interesting. Look at the things that it takes to make it, though. Mithril, most notably, I do not believe we currently have, at least not in our inventory here with Mardek, so I think the answer is going to have to be no for now. We'll have to keep an eye out for that, in that case. We have made the Rune Shield Plus, costs a base Rune Shield and a Magic Runestone. We do have some of those, in terms of the Runestones, but I don't know if we have any other Rune Shields, and since we already do have one here, I think the primary thing you want here is the damage soak 20 on the magic side, and Mardek's close to mastering this. Once he does, we can swap it over to Vern and have basically our only shield users master that ability, and then they can throw on whatever else they want. Probably don't need to use this long term. 10 magic defense is a ton, so we were deliberately making a point of maximizing magic defense at the expense of physical defense, then maybe it could be worth making another one of these, but I still think that's a bit of a stretch. And then with the Glyph Shield, we see that Vern is currently equipping one of these. These, I think, are a little bit more straightforward to create because Wooden Shield, those are pretty common, and I don't know if I've picked any of those up and put them in our inventory right now. But a Fire Opal, Aquamarine, Topaz Jade, those are all the most common of the element-specific gemstones. So, as you can see here, we do have enough of those right now. We just need to pick up another Wooden Shield, so we could make another of these, but I don't think that's super necessary for the same reason we were talking about before, is that, well, we have one, and this is, well, it is nice to have 16% resistance for fire, water, air, and earth elementals, but is that ever going to be the best shield? I suppose, in some niche scenarios, if you're trying to eke out every last bit of elemental resistances, might not be a bad idea, so we could theoretically stop back off at a save crystal, see if we can pick up any of those wooden shields, pick this one up. And then that leaves us with just the Shield of Light and the Shield of Darkness, and we have made some of these as well. I believe I put those back at the save crystal to make room. We have, I believe it's now 2 Shields of Darkness and 1 Shield of Light. So again, if we wanted to completely load up on light resistance and put this on both Vern and Mardek simultaneously, then we might have reason to make another one of these Shields of Light. But the problem with that is that those kite shields, yes, they do drop from some monsters that are recurring, but they're in Saul's dungeon, and they're pretty uncommon drops of that, so it would take a bit of a committed effort. So I'm not sure if we have any more of these, because I'd kind of been making a point of stopping back off here whenever we did pick up a kite shield. So I think what that leaves us with is that we probably do have what it takes to make a golden M helm, and it doesn't seem like we have too many other things here that we would want to use our gold ore on. Oh, except we do still need that light essence. Okay, so we want to stop back off at Aeropolis to do that. And then similarly, steel stole, we're probably good with that as well. Silver axe, I'm still on the fence because I want to double check as to whether we have that. So let's go back to the save crystal just for a second here to verify. I think there is one at the end here. So if we check this out, and we're looking for, it's not this kind of shield, it's a wooden shield. We're trying to make another one of the lift shields, but I don't see one right now. I think if we were to go back to Gosnor, we could pick one up. But Slinik, do you have any of the silver axes, or does anyone else have one? Because I think it could very well be in someone else's inventory, not even your own. So let's just do a quick check. I don't think we're going to have one here, because at least at first glance, it seems like most people seem as though they do not have one. So it is perhaps possible we could double check if the axolotls, or any kind of axolotl, because remember there are several of them, are capable of dropping it, in which case that would be a nice way of making sure that we don't have to use some silver, because that is a resource we'd very much like to save. But at least as for right now, let's go to Aeropolis, make sure that we pick up a light essence, because I'm pretty sure we're going to find that we can do that. If not, then we might be in a little bit of trouble here. We might find there could have been some enemies back in the Sun Temple that dropped light essence, or at least had the chance to. Don't quote me on that, but it might be possible. So you, I believe, at one point may have been selling some essences. Well, other crafting materials, yes, but not the essences, so pass on you. What about you? You are. You have one right here, so that's big. We'll pick that up. And then, do we have any reason for air essence? Not sure we have any of this, actually. Because, of course, we didn't get into the air temple, and those are the primary ways we've been getting all these essences. Look at how much fire essence we have. It's primarily because we spent a long time grinding in the fire temple. But are there other shopkeepers who are selling more essences? Because remember, ether essence was also something that's potentially of note. Or gems, though I'm not sure we need any of these per se. So I think we're probably good there. And I think once we start going to these shops here, we're looking at mostly weapons and armor that are not strictly necessary. This is the other chestplate that has that minus 30% damage, so in theory we could purchase more of those there if we really wanted to master that reaction on everyone as soon as possible. But Mardek has already done it. Vern is one of the only other people who can learn it, so don't think that's super necessary for us to load up on it. And there's one more shop over here, and there's the magic shop to the left. Anything here we particularly want? I don't think so. I think we're doing pretty well on all this stuff, unless we wanted to make a point of loading back up on some of our healing potions, because we, of course, did blow through a ton of those in the Red Dragon fight. But the other person I'm thinking of is the shopkeeper over here, and then there are also one or two shops over in the Temple District as well. Let's check this one first. Oh, okay, so you are also selling light essence. You are the stole person. And I don't yet think we picked up all the stoles that we can pick up. Oh, in fact, we can't even afford all of them at this rate. I think we've purchased the +6 for strength, vitality, and spirit at this point, which leaves us at the +4s would be next. Those are notable because they can give you the +2 of insert attribute here. And, well, do we have access to those things for everyone at this stage? Remember that most of the time, you're getting the +1 ability from these basic gemstones here. And you should have that for every element. But then when it comes to the +2, those come from these slightly rarer gemstones. So we have that for spirit, strength, and vitality. We actually don't have that for air, and of course there isn't an agility/air stole here. place where the +2 agility skill comes from is that miscellaneous item that gives us the +10 agility as well. One that we were using to make some people basically be guaranteed to go first. So I think that's probably reason enough for us to not feel the need to purchase more stuff there. We can basically do what we need to do using stoles. And the gemstones that we've already picked up. Now remember, we have picked up at least one, if not multiple, of the artifacts that we'll want to give to the curator. So let's check out just how many we have to give him. Is that a talisman of the stalwart titan, Krogan? Amazing. It must be ancient, yet this grassy plume that hangs from its core still grows verdant and strong. Really a sign of a deity's handiwork. I will pay 15,000 gold to take that talisman of Krogan off your hands. It's no use to you, and deeply interesting to me, so we both win. Do we have a deal? Yeah, I'd say so. 15,000 gold. Sure thing. You brought me 10 artifacts. Oh, and you're my hero. I want to reward you for continuing contributions, so here, take this. And what did we get? So, similarly to what we saw with the Dracal Crescent, fighting the Red Dragon, we also, technically speaking, don't have to pick up all those artifacts and turn them into the curator. It is technically optional. And so, when you turn in all of them, which is what we just did, that was in fact our last artifact, you get a new item. And of course we've gotten items at various stages along the way, turning in certain thresholds for artifacts, but this is the most significant one. It is a spear, the Obelisk, a powerful ancient spear with an obelisk-shaped pokebit. And it gives the Pyro Shell ability, which is a new ability for Donovan, and the Arrow Shell ability for Charlotte, which is a new ability for her. 40 attack is, I believe we'll find the most powerful spear, because Donovan is in our party right now and has what I believe was previously our most powerful spear, that being the Fire Fang from the Fire Guardian. That had 36 attack, so 40 is not a bad upgrade there. Some additional MP, 2 strength, 5 spirit. And the empowers fire and empowers air 50%. I mean, it's a nice gesture, even if it doesn't do anything. So that'll be a notable pickup for Donovan / Charla. Now, of course, there's only one of these, and so only one of them will be able to use it at a time, but this is the best spear in the game. So, that is the big reward for completing that optional quest, if you want to call it that. So both the Dracal Crescent and the Obelisk, similar in that sense. But we did pick up our Light Essence, so let's perhaps double back and check out the blacksmith, see if we can make the Mardek helm. The other thing is, I mean, we could double check what, if anything, the shopkeeper is selling over in the Temple District. I'm not positive that we're going to be terribly enthused with anything that he's selling, because I think that, for the most part, we're going to find it's not stuff that we need at this stage. But let's just double check. Just to be sure. I'm referring to this guy here. And he does have the Lordsian robe that we did ultimately end up picking up from the Lost Monastery. More elixirs, and I believe at one point we did use one of these in the Red Dragon fight. The reason why I was saying I was reluctant to do so is because they cost 9,999 coins, which is a lot for an expendable item. Then there are some Drakfangs as well, which we use to create Meridor's flamethrower item. I'm not sure if he needs it for anything else, though. May not. But why don't we just pick these up? Because this is the only place you can pick them up. And we can get some nightcaps as well, just because why not? We're here, so sure. Then the lead pipes and the fish scales, those are both crafting items, yes, but we have our fair share of those from enemies we fought, dating as far back as, in the case of the lead pipes, chapter 1, even. So I think that's just about it in terms of things for us to do in Aeropolis. I mean, we could double check the air temple here, but of course we did find that, well, people weren't too thrilled to let us in before. And what about now? We did, of course, turn in the, what was it, the romance novel to Priestess Gale earlier. But as we see here, I already told you you can't have the crystal. Now, if you have no further business here, please leave. So that is notable because, of course, we have picked up the water crystal, the fire crystal, and we technically haven't picked up the earth crystal yet. It's still lying in the earth temple, but we've taken out the guardian and whatnot, so that means that we, at this point in time, have picked up all the crystals that we can pick up. So that's what I mean when I said at this point we are getting close to the end of the game, and we are at the point now where we will be, for the most part, doing optional tasks, things like turning in those artifacts, taking out the red dragon and getting the Dracal Crescent, all this stuff that is bonus content of sorts, but ultimately we'll find should be very much worthwhile. Like I said, we're getting some of the best items in the game. So, let's head back over to the blacksmith, and this time around, we should have the stuff to make the Mardek M helm. So we'll need to use this light essence here, and then we'll go to Mardek's inventory. Gold ore, and Recope is also a limited resource, and the golden conch is too, wherever you're hiding. But, as I was saying, I think that for the high defense, the abilities, yes, he has already mastered, but also +1 to all attributes, and 30 resistance to light coming from a helmet spot where you can't get that from any other helmet. I think for that reason, it is a big pickup for him. Bumps him up to 19 magic defense, 20 physical defense. So that is huge. I mean, remember, just from fighting enemies, whenever they have 20 or more of a given type of defense, that typically means that we're trying to make a point of not attacking them with that type of attack. So for Mardek to be that high for basically both physical and magical defenses, that's pretty huge. So that's good to see. Other than that, I think we were talking about perhaps making a steel stole here. Silver ore being the primary thing that we're a little bit concerned about using up, but because we didn't have too many other things that we thought we would want to use silver ore for, like I was saying, I do think that Meriador does have some things for Legion and himself that will use it, but to take just one silver ore to make this, I think should be fine. So we'll need a silver ore here, some ectoplasm, that's no problem, then a physical runestone, also, not an issue, and then slime jam. And there we have a steel stole. Like I said, this is something that he is a strong physical defensive option for just about anyone. However, in particular for Solar, because Solar has such a difficulty getting access to many of those defensive reactions. So for that reason, that'll be very useful for us as well. And with that, I think this is probably a good place for us to wrap up here, because yes, there are a few other things from the blacksmith that we will ultimately want to see if we can create. That mithril plate mail that we, of course, don't have the mithril for yet to create. But we'll be keeping an eye out for that stuff in the future. And like I said, at this point, we are looking to take on even more of the optional content, so we do have some big things left in store. So, with that, I'll catch you next time.